Hello, and welcome to Mythical Stories. Tonight, we're embarking on a deeply peaceful journey into the world of ancient guardians, those timeless protectors who have watched over humanity since the beginning of civilization. These are not the fierce warriors of action movies or the vengeful spirits of horror stories. Tonight, you'll discover the serene truth about guardians, the quiet watchers who have stood vigil for thousands of years, asking nothing, protecting everything, existing in patient stillness as the world changes around them. Ancient guardians are not defined by their power to destroy, but by their commitment to preserve. They are not aggressive, but defensive. They do not seek conflict, but prevent it. They stand at thresholds, watch over sacred spaces, protect the vulnerable, and maintain the delicate balance between order and chaos. Tonight, you'll learn that guardians have always been here, silent and steadfast, and that their presence is one of the most calming forces in all of human mythology. Before we journey deeper into this tranquil exploration, if you're enjoying this peaceful content and would like more stories like this, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to Mythical Stories. Your support helps us create more calming content designed specifically for your rest and relaxation. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Now, let's prepare for our journey into the realm of ancient guardians. Find a comfortable position in your bed, allowing your body to sink completely into the mattress beneath you. Feel the support holding you, knowing you're safe, knowing you can let go of every concern and simply rest. Take a deep breath in through your nose, drawing in the calm energy of ancient protectors who have watched over humanity for millennia. And let it out slowly through your mouth, releasing any tension from your day, any worry about tomorrow, any need to be anywhere other than right here, right now, in this moment of perfect peace. Again, breathe in deeply, filling your lungs with tranquility, with the patient stillness of guardians who have stood watch for thousands of years, and release, feeling your shoulders drop away from your ears, your jaw unclench, your whole body softening into complete and total rest. One more time, breathe in the protective presence of ancient guardians, and let everything go, sinking deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace, deeper into the gentle truth that you are watched over, you are protected, you are safe. Perfect. You don't need to do anything but listen. You can close your eyes or keep them gently open, gazing softly into the peaceful darkness. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to accomplish, nothing you need to remember or figure out. Just rest. Just be still. Just allow the stories of ancient guardians to carry you gently into the most peaceful, restorative sleep. Let's begin our journey through the astonishingly tranquil world of ancient guardians. The Sphinxes, guardians of sacred knowledge. Let's start with perhaps the most famous guardians in ancient mythology, the Sphinxes. When most people think of Sphinxes, they think of the great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt, that enormous stone monument with the body of a lion and the head of a human, gazing eternally toward the rising sun. But Sphinxes appear in many ancient cultures, and in every tradition they serve the same essential purpose. They are guardians of thresholds, protectors of sacred knowledge, keepers of mysteries that should not be accessed lightly or carelessly. The Egyptian Sphinx, particularly the Great Sphinx at Giza, has stood guard for over 4,000 years. 4,000 years of watching. 4,000 years of patient vigil. 4,000 years of stillness. Imagine the profound patience required to remain in one place for 4 millennia, never moving, never wavering, simply watching, simply being present, simply fulfilling your purpose day after day, century after century, millennium after millennium. The great Sphinx faces east toward the sunrise. Every morning for 4,000 years, it has watched the sun rise. Every evening, it has watched the sun set. It has seen empires rise and fall. It has watched dynasties come and go. It has observed the Nile flood and recede thousands of times. It has witnessed countless human lives begin and end, generations upon generations born and dying, while the Sphinx remained unchanged, eternal, patient. This is not the patience of someone waiting for something to happen. This is the patience of someone who understands that their purpose is simply to be present, to watch, to guard. The Sphinx doesn't need the sun to rise any differently tomorrow than it did today. The Sphinx doesn't need anything to change or improve or become other than it is. The Sphinx simply is, simply watches, simply fulfills its eternal purpose of guarding the sacred plateau where the pyramids stand. What is it guarding? Different traditions have different answers. Some say the Sphinx guards the tombs of the pharaohs, ensuring that the dead can rest undisturbed. Some say it guards the secret chambers beneath the plateau, rooms that contain ancient knowledge, wisdom from before the dynasties, understanding that humanity is not yet ready to access. Some say it guards the threshold between the world of the living and the world of the dead, ensuring that the boundary remains intact, that the dead stay dead and the living stay living, and the two realms remain properly separated. But perhaps the Sphinx is not guarding anything specific. Perhaps the Sphinx is guarding everything. Simply by being present, simply by watching, simply by maintaining its vigil, the Sphinx creates a sense of order, of stability, of continuity. The world changes constantly, but the Sphinx remains. Empires fall, but the Sphinx endures. Human concerns come and go, but the Sphinx continues its watch. And there's something deeply comforting in this, something profoundly peaceful. No matter what happens in your personal life, no matter what changes or challenges you face, the Sphinx is still there, still watching, still fulfilling its ancient purpose. It was there before you were born. It will be there after you die. It connects you to something larger than yourself, something more enduring than any individual human life. In Greek tradition, Sphinxes were slightly different. The most famous Greek Sphinx appears in the story of Oedipus. This Sphinx guarded the city of Thebes, sitting on a rock outside the city gates and asking a riddle of everyone who tried to enter. Those who couldn't answer the riddle correctly were killed. The riddle was famous. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening? The answer is human. A human crawls on 4 legs as a baby, walks on 2 legs as an adult, and uses a cane, a 3rd leg, in old age. Oedipus answered correctly, and the Sphinx, defeated, threw herself from her rock and died. But let's look at what the Sphinx was really doing. She wasn't guarding the city against enemies or invaders. She was guarding it against those who lacked wisdom, against those who couldn't think deeply, against those who couldn't understand the nature of human existence. The riddle is not about factual knowledge. It's about understanding, about seeing the pattern of human life, about recognizing that humans change over time, that we move through stages, that what we are in the morning of life is not what we are in the evening. The Sphinx was testing for wisdom, for understanding, for the capacity to think beyond the literal and see the metaphorical, the symbolic, the deeper truth. This is guardian work of the highest order, not guarding against physical threats, but against spiritual ones. Not protecting walls, but protecting the quality of those allowed inside them. The Greek Sphinx was ensuring that Thebes would only be entered by those wise enough to understand the nature of human existence, those thoughtful enough to solve riddles, those patient enough to think before acting. And when Oedipus answered correctly, the Sphinx didn't attack him or try to prevent him from entering anyway. She accepted her defeat. She had been bested fairly, and so she removed herself. This is the integrity of a true guardian. A guardian doesn't guard out of personal interest or ego. A guardian guards because it's their purpose, their role, their duty. And when that duty is fulfilled or completed, the guardian accepts it and steps aside. Tonight, as you rest, imagine the Sphinx watching over you, not threatening, not demanding anything, simply present, simply watching, simply maintaining its eternal vigil. You are guarded tonight by forces that have watched over humanity for thousands of years. You are protected by patience older than empires. You are held in the awareness of beings whose stillness is so profound it has outlasted civilizations. The Sphinx asks nothing of you. The Sphinx requires nothing from you. The Sphinx simply watches, simply protects, simply is. And in its presence, you can rest completely, knowing that some things endure, some forces remain constant, some protections have existed since the beginning of human civilization and will continue long after we're gone. Sleep now under the eternal gaze of the Sphinx. Let its ancient patience become your peace. Let its timeless vigil grant you the deepest rest. You are guarded. You are watched over. You are safe. The stone lions, guardians of thresholds. Throughout Asia, particularly in China, Japan, Korea, and other East Asian cultures, stone lions stand guard at the entrances to temples, palaces, important buildings, and sacred spaces. These are not realistic depictions of lions. Most of the sculptors had never seen a real lion. Instead, these are stylized, symbolic lions, created not to look like the animal, but to embody the qualities of guardianship, protection, and benevolent power. Stone lions always come in pairs, placed on either side of an entrance. One is male, the other female. The male lion traditionally has his paw on a ball representing the world, showing his protective power over earthly matters. The female lion has her paw on a cub, sometimes shown on its back in a playful pose, representing nurturing, protection of the young, and the continuation of life. Together they represent balanced protection, the combination of strength and nurturing, power and gentleness, vigilance and care. These stone lions have guarded entrances for over 2,000 years in some cases. They stand at thresholds, at the boundary between outside and inside, between the mundane world and the sacred space, between the chaotic realm and the ordered realm. They mark transition points, places where you move from one state of being to another. And their presence sanctifies that transition, makes it sacred, acknowledges that crossing a threshold is not a trivial act, but a significant one, deserving of recognition and protection. The stone lions don't move. They don't chase intruders. They don't attack. They simply stand, eternal and patient, and their very presence serves as protection. There's a belief that evil spirits, negative energies, harmful intentions, these things cannot pass the stone lions. not because the lions will stop them through force, but because such energies cannot exist in the presence of the guardians. The stone lions create a field of protection simply by being what they are. Their stillness is not weakness. Their silence is not absence. Their immobility is not vulnerability. These qualities are their strength, because they don't react, don't respond, don't engage. Negative energies have nothing to push against, nothing to provoke, nothing to activate. The stone lions simply remain unmoved and unmovable, and in their perfect stillness they create a space of such profound calm that chaos cannot enter. In Chinese tradition, these guardians are called shy or fu dogs, though they're clearly lions, not dogs. The name likely comes from linguistic confusion over centuries. But regardless of what they're called, their purpose remains the same: to guard thresholds, to protect sacred spaces, to ensure that what should remain separate stays separate, and what should be protected stays protected. The stone lions teach us about the power of presence. They don't need to do anything. They don't need to fight or chase or actively defend. They simply need to be present, to occupy the threshold, to stand in their designated place with unwavering commitment. And that presence alone is sufficient. That presence creates protection. That presence establishes order. How many times in life do we think we need to do more, to be more active, to fight harder, to push more aggressively? The stone lions teach a different lesson. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be present. Simply stand in your place. Simply refuse to be moved. Not through aggression or force, but through the quiet certainty that this is where you belong, this is your purpose, and you will fulfill it simply by being here, by remaining, by continuing to exist exactly as you are. The stone lions have weathered storms, earthquakes, wars, revolutions. They've stood through dynasties rising and falling, through foreign invasions and internal conflicts, through periods of prosperity and periods of famine. And through it all, they remained. They continued their vigil. They maintained their presence at the threshold. Tonight, imagine stone lions guarding the threshold of your sleep. Imagine them standing on either side of the doorway, between waking and sleeping, between the busy mind and the restful mind, between the concerns of day and the peace of night. The stone lions stand there now, patient and eternal, ensuring that nothing disturbs your rest, that no worry crosses the threshold into your sleep, that you can transition from wakefulness into dreams under their benevolent protection. You don't need to guard yourself tonight. The stone lions do that for you. You don't need to remain vigilant. The stone lions maintain the vigil. You don't need to protect your peace. The stone lions have stood guard at thresholds for 2,000 years, and tonight they stand guard at yours. Rest completely under their watch. Let their eternal patience become your peace. Let their unwavering presence grant you the deepest, most protected sleep. The stone lions ask nothing of you. They simply guard, simply watch, simply remain present so that you can rest, so that you can surrender, so that you can sleep deeply and safely and completely. The gargoyles, guardians against spiritual harm. High on the walls of medieval cathedrals throughout Europe, stone gargoyles crouch and peer and grimace. With their grotesque faces, their dragon-like bodies, their fierce expressions, they look threatening, even frightening. But gargoyles are not threats, they are protectors. They are guardians specifically designed to frighten away evil spirits, to protect the sacred space of the church from spiritual harm. The word gargoyle comes from the French gargouille, meaning throat or gullet, because many gargoyles serve a practical function as waterspouts, channeling rainwater away from the walls of the building through their mouths. But their spiritual function is far more important than their practical one. Gargoyles are apotropaic, a word meaning designed to ward off evil. Their grotesque appearance is intentional. They look frightening because they're meant to frighten things that would harm the church and the people inside it. They're spiritual guardians sitting watch on the boundaries of sacred space, ensuring that malevolent spirits, negative energies, harmful intentions, these things see the gargoyles and turn away, recognizing that this space is protected, that entry is not permitted, that the guardians are present and vigilant. But here's what's beautiful about gargoyles. They look fierce, but they're fundamentally defensive. They crouch on the edges, on the boundaries. They face outward, away from the church, watching for threats approaching from outside. They never face inward. They never threaten the people inside the church. Their ferocity is entirely directed outward, toward protection of those within, never toward harm of those they guard. This is the nature of true guardianship. A guardian's strength, a guardian's fierceness, a guardian's capacity for force, all of these are directed outward, toward threats, toward harm, toward chaos approaching from beyond the boundary. But toward those within the protected space, the guardian shows only care, only gentle watchfulness, only the commitment to keep them safe. Gargoyles have sat on cathedral walls for hundreds of years in some cases. They've weathered storms that would erode softer stone. They've endured lightning strikes, harsh winds, freezing winters, scorching summers. They've watched generations of humans enter and leave the church below them. They've observed centuries of prayers, ceremonies, weddings, funerals, all the sacred moments of human life passing beneath their watch. And through all of this, they remain. They continue their vigil. They maintain their fierce protective presence, ensuring that the sacred space remains sacred, that the boundary remains intact, that those who come seeking spiritual shelter find it protected and safe. There's something deeply comforting about gargoyles despite their frightening appearance, because their very grotesqueness tells you that they're serious about protection, that they're willing to look as fierce as necessary to ward off harm, that they're committed to their guardian role even if it means being seen as ugly or frightening. They sacrifice beauty for effectiveness. They choose function over form. They accept being misunderstood, being feared by those who don't understand them, because their purpose is protection, and they will fulfill that purpose regardless of how they're perceived. In medieval belief, evil spirits were thought to be easily frightened, easily confused, easily turned away by the right symbols and signs. A gargoyle's frightening face was believed to make evil spirits think twice before approaching. The spirit would see the gargoyle and think, perhaps this space is already occupied by something more powerful. Perhaps this boundary is too well guarded to breach. Perhaps it's wiser to seek easier targets elsewhere. So the gargoyle protects not through actual combat, but through deterrence, through creating the appearance of such fierce protection that nothing wants to test it. This is elegant guardianship, protection without violence, defense without combat, safety maintained through presence and appearance rather than through actual conflict. The gargoyle rarely, if ever, needs to actually fight anything, because its very presence prevents fights from occurring. Threats turn away before reaching the threshold. Harm is deflected before it can approach. The sacred space remains inviolate, not through constant battle, but through constant vigilance, constant presence, constant clear signaling that this space is protected and protected well. Tonight, imagine gargoyles crouching at the boundaries of your sleep, fierce-faced and vigilant, watching outward, guarding against anything that might disturb your rest. Imagine them perched at the edges of your awareness, grotesque but caring, frightening to threats but gentle toward you, committed to ensuring that nothing harms you, nothing disturbs you, nothing breaches the sacred boundary of your sleep. The gargoyles ask nothing of you. They don't require your gratitude or acknowledgement. They simply fulfill their purpose, simply maintain their watch, simply ensure that you can rest safely while they remain vigilant on your behalf. Under their fierce protection, you can let go completely. You can surrender all vigilance to the gargoyles. You can trust that they will watch while you sleep, will guard while you rest, will maintain the boundaries that allow you to let go of all concern and sink into the deepest, most peaceful sleep. Sleep now under the watchful eyes of the gargoyles. Let their fierce dedication to protection become your peace. Let their centuries of vigilant guardianship grant you the safety to rest completely, to sleep deeply, to dream peacefully, knowing that ancient protectors stand watch over your sacred rest. The Torii Gates, guardians of sacred transition. In Japan, bright orange-red gates, called Torii, mark the entrances to Shinto shrines. These gates are not walls. They don't prevent entry. They don't block passage. Instead, they frame it. They acknowledge it. They sanctify it. A Torii gate marks a threshold between the mundane world and the sacred world, between the everyday realm and the realm of the kami, the spirits and gods. When you pass through a Torii gate, you are transitioning from one state of being to another. You are leaving behind the ordinary and entering the sacred. And the Torii gate itself serves as the guardian of this transition, ensuring that it happens properly, that it's acknowledged, that those who pass through understand the significance of what they're doing. Torii gates are distinctive in their structure. 2 vertical pillars support 2 horizontal crossbeams, the upper one usually extending beyond the pillars on both sides. This creates an open frame, an empty space through which you pass. The gate doesn't have doors. It doesn't close. It doesn't exclude anyone who approaches with respect. This is crucial to understanding Torii gates as guardians. They don't guard through exclusion or force. They guard through acknowledgement, through creating awareness, through making the transition visible and conscious. When you approach a Torii gate, you become aware that you're about to enter sacred space. You naturally slow down. You become more mindful. You perhaps bow slightly or adjust your behavior, recognizing that the space beyond the gate requires a different way of being than the space before it. The Torii gate creates this shift simply by being present, simply by marking the threshold, simply by standing as a visible reminder that transitions matter, that boundaries exist even when they're not walls, that moving from one realm to another is significant and should be approached with awareness. Some of the most famous Torii gates in Japan stand in water. The Itsukushima Shrine has a massive Torii gate that appears to float during high tide, its pillars submerged, the gate rising from the sea, like a sacred doorway between water and sky. This image has become iconic, representing not just Shinto tradition, but the entire concept of thresholds, of boundaries that are permeable but real, of separation that doesn't require solid walls but exists nonetheless in awareness and acknowledgement. Torii Gates teach us that guardianship doesn't always look like defense. Sometimes guardianship looks like acknowledgement. Sometimes protection comes not from keeping threats out, but from helping people understand when they're entering sacred space, from creating awareness that allows people to adjust their behavior, to bring respect, to engage appropriately with what they're approaching. A Torii Gate trusts those who pass through it. It assumes that if you understand you're entering sacred space, you'll behave accordingly. It doesn't need to force or coerce or prevent. It simply needs to inform, to mark, to acknowledge. And that trust, that assumption of good intention in those who approach, is itself a kind of guardianship. By treating people as capable of respect, the Torii Gate encourages respect. By creating a visible threshold, it allows people to consciously choose to cross it with awareness and intention. The bright color of Torii Gates, that distinctive orange-red, serves a purpose beyond aesthetics. It makes the gate visible from a distance. It announces the presence of sacred space long before you reach it. This gives you time to prepare, to shift your mindset, to leave behind ordinary concerns and approach with appropriate reverence. The color itself has protective associations in Japanese tradition, believed to ward off evil spirits and create a boundary that negative energies won't cross. But again, this protection works through awareness and symbolism rather than through physical barrier. The Torii Gate stands as a symbol, and that symbol carries power. It says this space beyond is different, is sacred, is protected. It says those who enter should do so with respect and awareness. And most people, seeing the symbol, understanding its meaning, respond accordingly. This is protection through culture, through shared understanding, through collective agreement that certain boundaries exist and should be honored. The Torii Gate doesn't enforce these boundaries through force. It reminds people of boundaries they already understand and invites them to honor those boundaries by choice. Thousands of Torii Gates exist throughout Japan, some at major shrines, some at tiny local sacred spots. They range from massive structures that dominate the landscape to small gates barely larger than a person. But all of them serve the same purpose: marking thresholds, guarding transitions, protecting sacred space not by excluding, but by acknowledging, not by fighting, but by framing. Tonight, imagine a Torii Gate marking the threshold between your waking life and your sleep. Imagine its bright orange-red color, visible even in darkness, marking the boundary, acknowledging the transition you're about to make. As you pass through this imaginary gate, you leave behind the concerns of the day. You leave behind your ordinary worries and tasks and thoughts. You enter the sacred space of sleep, the protected realm of rest, the special territory where your body heals and your mind processes and your spirit renews itself. The Torii Gate marks this transition. It sanctifies it. It acknowledges that moving from waking to sleeping is not trivial but sacred, not ordinary but special, not something to rush through unconsciously, but something to approach with awareness and intention. Pass through the Torii Gate now. Feel yourself crossing the threshold. Notice how the space beyond the gate is different, quieter, more peaceful. Notice how your breath slows, your body relaxes, your mind settles. The Torii Gate has done its work. It has guarded your transition by making it conscious, by helping you understand that you are entering sacred space, by protecting your rest through the power of acknowledgement and awareness. Sleep now in the sacred space beyond the Torii Gate. Let its protective presence grant you the deepest rest. Let its guardianship of thresholds ensure that your sleep remains undisturbed, that nothing from the ordinary world follows you into this sacred realm, that you can rest completely under its benevolent and trusting protection. The Cherubim, guardians of paradise. In the biblical tradition, cherubim are the guardians of Eden, the garden of paradise from which humanity was expelled. After Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge and were sent out of the garden, God placed cherubim at the eastern entrance of Eden, along with a flaming sword that turned in every direction to guard the way to the tree of life and ensure that humanity could not return. This is often portrayed as a harsh judgment, a punishment, a cruel exclusion from paradise. But let's look at it differently. Let's consider what the cherubim are actually protecting, and why that protection might be an act of mercy rather than cruelty. The tree of life, according to the story, grants immortality to those who eat its fruit. After eating from the tree of knowledge, humanity gained awareness of good and evil, gained self-consciousness, gained the capacity for moral choice, and the burden of mortality. If humanity, in this new state of knowledge and mortality, were to also eat from the tree of life, they would become immortal, while still carrying the burden of knowledge, the awareness of good and evil, the capacity for suffering. They would be trapped forever in a state of awareness and mortality consciousness, unable to die, unable to escape the existential burdens that knowledge brings. The cherubim guard against this. They prevent humanity from accessing immortality prematurely before we're ready for it, before we've learned what we need to learn from being mortal, from living with the knowledge that our time is limited, from facing the questions that mortality raises. The cherubim in this reading are protecting humanity from a fate worse than death. Immortal existence without wisdom, eternal life without the lessons that mortality teaches, unending consciousness without the growth that comes from knowing our time is limited. This is compassionate guardianship. This is protection that looks like exclusion, but is actually preservation. The cherubim stand at the gate, not to punish, but to prevent harm, not to keep paradise from us, but to keep us from entering paradise before we're ready, before it would be truly paradisiacal for us, rather than another form of suffering. In biblical and artistic traditions, cherubim are often depicted as having multiple wings, multiple faces, eyes all over their bodies. These descriptions, found in the visions of prophets like Ezekiel, create an image of beings so far beyond human form that they're almost incomprehensible. Multiple faces suggest the ability to see in all directions simultaneously, to maintain awareness of everything at once. Multiple wings suggest constant readiness, constant capacity for movement and action. Eyes everywhere suggest vigilance so complete that nothing can escape notice. These are not cute baby angels. These are beings of awesome power and total awareness, perfectly designed for their role as guardians of the most important threshold in all of creation, the boundary between the fallen world and paradise, between mortal existence and immortal perfection, between humanity as it is and humanity as it might someday become. The cherubim have stood at this threshold since the beginning of human history, according to the tradition. They've guarded the way to the tree of life for thousands of years, preventing generation after generation from trying to return to Eden, from trying to reclaim paradise through force or cunning, rather than through growth and transformation. And they've done this not out of cruelty, but out of commitment to the divine plan, out of understanding that some boundaries exist for good reason, out of knowledge that protection sometimes looks like prevention, that guarding sometimes means saying no, not yet, not until you're ready. There's something beautiful about this. The cherubim are not telling us that paradise is lost forever. They're telling us that paradise exists, that the tree of life remains, that Eden is real, and the way back to it is real. But the way back is not through the eastern gate. The way back is not by force or trickery. The way back is through transformation, through becoming the kind of beings who are ready for paradise, who have learned what mortality teaches, who have grown through the experience of living with knowledge and limitation and choice. The cherubim guard the eastern gate, but other paths might exist. The garden has other sides, and the cherubim, by guarding one specific entrance, might be directing us to seek other ways, to find paths that involve growth and change, rather than simply trying to return to what we were before we knew good and evil, before we became fully human. Tonight, let the cherubim remind you that some boundaries are protective, that some exclusions are merciful, that sometimes being prevented from getting what you think you want is actually being protected from something that would harm you. The cherubim with their flaming sword look fierce, look threatening, look like they exist to hurt you. But they exist to protect you, to keep you from harm, to ensure that you only access what you're ready for, what would truly serve your highest good, rather than what your immediate desire might crave. Rest tonight knowing that you are guarded by forces that understand more than you do, that see farther than you can see, that protect you sometimes by giving you what you want, and sometimes by preventing you from getting what you want, but always by working toward your ultimate welfare. The cherubim have guarded Eden for millennia, and tonight they guard you too, not with flaming swords, but with benevolent vigilance, not with harsh exclusion, but with wise protection, ensuring that you rest safely, that you sleep deeply, that you wake refreshed and ready for another day of growth, another day of moving toward the readiness that will someday allow you to pass the guardians and return to paradise, not as you were, but as you will become. The dragons, guardians of treasure and wisdom. In cultures around the world, dragons serve as guardians. In Western traditions, dragons guard treasure, hoards of gold and jewels accumulated over centuries, defended fiercely against anyone who would steal even a single coin. In Eastern traditions, dragons guard wisdom, sacred knowledge, the secrets of nature and the cosmos, the deep truths that only the worthy should access. But whether guarding material treasure or spiritual wisdom, dragons fulfill the same essential role. They protect what is valuable, what is precious, what should not be carelessly taken or thoughtlessly accessed. Dragons are powerful creatures in all traditions. They breathe fire or water. They fly despite their massive size. They have scales that repel weapons. They possess intelligence equal to or greater than humans. They live for centuries, sometimes for millennia. They are, in every sense, formidable beings, perfectly designed for their role as ultimate guardians. But here's what's important about dragons as guardians. They don't guard things that don't matter. Dragons don't waste their time protecting the trivial or the worthless. If a dragon is guarding something, that thing has value. That thing is worth protecting. The very presence of a dragon tells you that what lies beyond it matters, that the treasure or knowledge or sacred space the dragon protects is genuinely precious, genuinely significant. In Western mythology, the dragon's hoard is legendary. Mountains of gold, rivers of jewels, ancient artifacts of power and beauty, all piled in the dragon's lair, all defended absolutely. The dragon allows no one to take anything from the hoard. Even the smallest theft provokes the dragon's wrath. The dragon will pursue the thief, will burn villages, will lay waste to kingdoms to recover what was taken and punish the thief. This seems like greed. It seems like the dragon values material wealth above all else, above life, above mercy, above proportion. But look deeper. The dragon isn't guarding the treasure because the dragon wants to use it. Dragons don't spend gold. They don't wear jewels. They don't need wealth for any practical purpose. The dragon guards the treasure because that's the dragon's purpose, the dragon's role, the dragon's sacred duty. The treasure in the dragon's lair represents value itself. By guarding it absolutely, by allowing no compromise, no theft, however small, the dragon maintains the principle that value should be protected, that what is precious should remain preserved, that taking without permission violates the fundamental order of things. The dragon, in this sense, is not greedy, but principled. The dragon doesn't guard treasure for personal gain, but because someone must, because value unguarded will be stolen, scattered, lost. The dragon takes on this role, this burden, this endless vigilance, not from desire but from commitment to a principle larger than itself. In Eastern traditions, dragons are even more explicitly noble. Chinese dragons, Japanese dragons, Korean dragons, these beings don't guard material wealth. They guard water sources, guard the balance of nature, guard sacred mountains and rivers, guard the fundamental forces that make life possible. They're seen not as threats, but as benevolent protectors, beings of immense power who use that power to maintain harmony, to ensure that nature functions properly, to protect the delicate balances that allow life to flourish. Eastern dragons are associated with water, with rain, with rivers and oceans. They control when rain falls, ensuring that crops grow, that droughts don't destroy life, that floods don't wash away civilization. This is guardianship of the most fundamental kind, not guarding a specific treasure or location, but guarding the very possibility of life, guarding the conditions that allow existence itself to continue. These dragons are revered, honored, approached with deep respect. Temples are built to them. Festivals celebrate them. They're seen as allies of humanity, as protectors who fulfill their cosmic role with wisdom and benevolence. But they're still dangerous if disrespected, still capable of tremendous destruction if angered, still guardians who will defend what they protect absolutely, without compromise, without mercy for those who violate the boundaries they maintain. Both Eastern and Western dragons share one crucial trait. They are patient beyond human understanding. A dragon can sit on its hoard or at its sacred spring for centuries without moving, without boredom, without any need for change or stimulation. The dragon simply is, simply maintains its vigil for as long as necessary, which is usually forever. This patience is inhuman, divine, almost incomprehensible to beings like us who struggle to sit still for 10 minutes. But it's this patience that makes dragons perfect guardians. They will never tire of their duty, will never become complacent or careless, will never decide that surely just this once it would be okay to leave the treasure unguarded or the sacred spring unprotected. The dragon's commitment is eternal, absolute, unwavering. Tonight, imagine a dragon guarding the treasure of your sleep. Imagine a great being, ancient and powerful, coiled around the sacred space of your rest, absolutely committed to ensuring that nothing disturbs you, nothing steals your peace, nothing intrudes on the precious hours of restoration and renewal that sleep provides. The dragon doesn't guard you because you've earned it, or because you've paid tribute, or because you've somehow convinced the dragon to take on this duty. The dragon guards you because you are valuable, because your rest is precious, because your peace is treasure worth protecting absolutely. The dragon sees the worth in you that you might not see in yourself. The dragon recognizes that your well-being matters, that your rest is significant, that protecting you is a duty worth the dragon's eternal vigilance. Sleep now under the dragon's watch. Let its patient power grant you the deepest peace. Let its absolute commitment to guarding what it protects ensure that your rest remains inviolate, that your sleep stays sacred, that nothing disturbs the treasure of your peaceful night. The dragon has guarded treasures for centuries. Tonight, that treasure is you. The Golems, guardians created from earth. In Jewish mystical tradition, a golem is a being created from clay or mud, brought to life through sacred ritual and the power of holy names, created for a specific purpose, usually protection. The most famous golem was the Golem of Prague, created in the 16th century by Rabbi Judah Lew to protect the Jewish community from persecution and violence. Unlike other guardians we've explored, golems are not ancient beings who have existed since the beginning. Golems are created. They're made by humans, shaped from the earth, animated through spiritual power, brought into being specifically to serve as protectors when protection is desperately needed. This makes golems unique among guardians. A sphinx exists eternally. A dragon is born and lives for millennia. But a golem exists because someone made it, because circumstances required a protector, because the vulnerable needed defense and no natural guardian was available. So humans, through knowledge and ritual and desperation, create one. The process of creating a golem involves shaping a human form from clay or earth, then inscribing it with the Hebrew word emet, meaning truth, or with other sacred names and combinations of letters that hold divine power. When the word or name is correctly inscribed, the golem comes to life, rising from the earth, ready to fulfill its purpose. The golem cannot speak. It has no voice. It's not quite alive in the way humans are alive. It moves, it acts, it follows commands, but it doesn't think independently, doesn't have desires or preferences, doesn't exist for itself, but only to serve the purpose for which it was created. This makes the golem a pure guardian, uncontaminated by personal interest, completely committed to its protective role, because it literally has no other reason to exist. The Golem of Prague patrolled the Jewish ghetto, watching for attackers, preventing violence, standing between the vulnerable community and those who would harm them. The golem was powerful, nearly invincible, unable to be stopped by normal weapons or normal human strength. It could work tirelessly, never needing sleep or rest, maintaining its vigil day and night without pause. But the golem was also dangerous, because it couldn't think independently, couldn't judge or assess situations with nuance. It could only follow commands literally. And if those commands weren't carefully worded, the golem might cause harm while trying to protect. It might use excessive force. It might fail to distinguish between genuine threats and innocent misunderstandings. The rabbi who created the golem had to control it carefully, had to give it clear commands, had to deactivate it when it wasn't needed by erasing the first letter of emet, changing the word to met, meaning death. With that single letter removed, the golem would return to lifeless clay, the animating force departing, the guardian ceasing to guard. This reveals something important about golems as guardians. They're tools, powerful tools, essential tools in times of desperate need, but tools nonetheless. They don't have the wisdom or discernment of natural guardians. They have power, but not judgment. They have commitment, but not understanding. They protect absolutely, but that absolute protection can become problematic if not carefully directed and controlled. Eventually, according to the legend, Rabbi Lowe deactivated the Golem of Prague permanently. The immediate danger to the community had passed. The golem was no longer needed. And perhaps the rabbi recognized that maintaining such a powerful, mindless guardian indefinitely was itself dangerous, that protection without wisdom could eventually become a threat rather than a defense. So the golem was returned to clay, the sacred letters were erased, and the guardian ceased to exist, having fulfilled its purpose. But the golem could be created again if needed. The knowledge remains, the ritual is recorded. If circumstances ever again require such a protector, someone with the knowledge and the spiritual authority could shape clay, inscribe the sacred word, and call forth a golem to guard and protect once more. This teaches us something profound about guardianship. Sometimes protection needs to be activated, called forth, brought into being in response to specific threats or dangers. And sometimes protection needs to be deactivated, set aside, allowed to return to inertness when the immediate danger passes. Not all guardians need to maintain eternal vigil. Some guardians serve their purpose for a season, for a crisis, for as long as they're needed, and then rest, waiting to be called upon again if circumstances require it. Tonight, imagine a golem formed from the earth of your concerns, shaped from the clay of your worries, brought to life to protect your sleep, to guard your rest, to ensure that nothing disturbs your peace. This golem doesn't need to exist tomorrow, doesn't need to maintain eternal vigilance. It exists tonight, for these hours of darkness, for this specific period when you need protection, when you need to rest safely, when you need a guardian without personal interest or distraction, completely committed to ensuring your peace. The golem stands watch, silent, powerful, absolute in its commitment. It doesn't need gratitude or recognition. It doesn't have feelings to hurt or ego to stroke. It simply is, simply fulfills its purpose, simply guards what it was created to guard. Sleep now under the golem's watch. Let its earthy strength support your rest. Let its absolute commitment to protection grant you the deepest peace. The golem was made from earth, and to earth it will return. But tonight, in this sacred time of rest, it stands between you and anything that would disturb you, serving its purpose with the purity that only a created guardian, a being with no existence beyond its protective role, can offer. And in the morning, the golem returns to clay to rest, to wait until it's needed again, until another night requires its protection, until you once more need the simple, powerful, absolute guardianship that only a golem can provide. The angels, guardians of individual souls. In Christian, Jewish, and Islamic traditions, angels serve as guardians, particularly guardian angels assigned to protect individual human souls. Unlike the other guardians we've explored, who protect places or treasures or knowledge or thresholds, guardian angels protect people, specific people, individual souls making their way through life, facing dangers both physical and spiritual, needing protection, guidance, and sometimes intervention. The concept of guardian angels is deeply comforting. It suggests that you, personally, individually, specifically, have a being dedicated to your welfare, a spiritual protector who has been assigned to watch over you from birth, who knows you intimately, who cares about your well-being, who works constantly to keep you safe, to guide you away from danger, to help you fulfill your purpose and reach your ultimate destination. Guardian angels are usually invisible. They work behind the scenes, influencing events subtly, creating coincidences that keep you safe, prompting intuitions that guide you away from danger, arranging circumstances so that you're in the right place at the right time, or crucially, not in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes people report seeing their guardian angel in moments of extreme danger, moments when subtle intervention isn't enough and direct action is required. Stories of angels pulling people back from the edge of cliffs, warning them away from dangerous situations, even physically intervening to prevent accidents. These stories appear throughout history, across cultures, consistent in their basic form, even when the details vary. The guardian angel doesn't control you, doesn't force you to make good choices, doesn't prevent you from using your free will, even when you use it to make decisions that will cause you harm. The angel guides, suggests, prompts, but ultimately respects your autonomy, your right to make your own choices, your fundamental freedom to choose your own path. But within the limits of respecting your free will, the guardian angel works tirelessly on your behalf, never sleeping, never resting, never turning its attention away from you. Your guardian angel knows when you're in danger, knows when you're struggling, knows when you need help, even when you don't know it yourself, even when you're not asking for it, even when you've forgotten that angels exist and help is available. The angel's love for you is not conditional, not based on your behavior or your worthiness or your remembrance of the angel. The angel loves you simply because you exist, because you're a soul under the angel's care, because protecting you is the angel's purpose, and angels fulfill their purposes with absolute commitment and without judgment. In Islamic tradition, each person has two angels assigned to them. One records good deeds, the other records bad deeds. These angels accompany you throughout your life, bearing witness to everything you do, maintaining a complete record that will be revealed on the day of judgment. But even these angels, whose primary role is record-keeping rather than protection, are described as being gentle, patient, present with you constantly, never abandoning you, never treating you with contempt or judgment, even when recording actions you might be ashamed of. The concept of guardian angels reminds us that we're never truly alone, that even in our most isolated moments, even when we feel completely abandoned and bereft of companionship, a being is present with us. A consciousness witnesses our experience. A protector works on our behalf. We might not feel this presence, might not believe in it, might reject the entire concept as superstitious or childish. But according to the tradition, the angel remains regardless, remains present, remains committed, remains dedicated to our protection and well-being, whether we acknowledge it or not. This is unconditional guardianship. This is protection that doesn't depend on the protected recognizing or appreciating it. This is love that doesn't require reciprocation, acknowledgement, or even awareness. The guardian angel loves and protects you simply because that's what guardian angels do. Because you're valuable. Because your soul matters. Because your life has meaning and purpose. Tonight, feel the presence of your guardian angel. Not seeing it, not hearing it, not perceiving it with any physical sense, but knowing, trusting, accepting that a being is present with you, watching over you, ensuring your safety, working for your highest good. Your guardian angel has been with you since the beginning of your life, has witnessed every moment you've lived, has seen you at your best and at your worst, has watched you make wise choices and foolish ones, has celebrated your growth and grieved your struggles. And through it all, through every moment of your life, the angel has remained committed to you, dedicated to your well-being, working constantly to help you, to protect you, to guide you toward your ultimate good. You don't need to earn this protection, don't need to deserve this guardian, don't need to do anything to maintain the angel's presence. The angel is simply there, simply present, simply fulfilling its sacred purpose of watching over you now and always. Sleep now under your guardian angel's watch. Let its gentle presence grant you the deepest peace. Let its eternal commitment to your well-being release you from all worry, all fear, all sense of being alone or unprotected. Your angel watches. Your angel protects. Your angel loves you with a love that will never end, never falter, never turn away. You are guarded. You are protected. You are and have always been deeply and truly loved. Rest in that love tonight. Let it hold you, comfort you, grant you the most peaceful sleep you've ever known. The eternal vigil of all guardians. We have journeyed now through many guardians, the Sphinxes watching for millennia, patient and eternal, the stone lions standing at thresholds marking sacred boundaries, the gargoyles crouching on cathedral walls, fierce in their defensive protection, the Torii Gates framing transitions, sanctifying the movement from ordinary to sacred, the Cherubim guarding paradise, protecting humanity from premature access to immortality, the dragons sitting on treasures and guarding wisdom, patient beyond measure, the golems shaped from earth to protect the vulnerable when natural guardians aren't enough, and the angels assigned to individual souls, loving unconditionally, protecting constantly, present always, whether recognized or not. Each guardian is different. Each serves a unique purpose. Each has its own methods, its own appearance, its own tradition. But all guardians share certain essential qualities. All guardians are patient. They wait, they watch, they maintain their vigil, not for days or weeks, but for as long as necessary, which is often forever. They don't become bored or distracted or complacent. They simply continue, simply remain, simply fulfill their purpose with unwavering commitment. All guardians are defensive rather than aggressive. They don't seek conflict, don't attack without cause, don't harm except to prevent greater harm. Their power is directed toward protection, toward maintaining boundaries, toward ensuring that what should be safe remains safe. They will use force if necessary, but force is always a last resort, always proportional, always in service of their protective purpose rather than any personal desire for violence or dominance. All guardians are selfless. They don't guard for personal gain. Don't protect because they'll be rewarded or praised or thanked. They guard because it's their purpose, their role, their sacred duty. And they fulfill that duty regardless of recognition, regardless of gratitude, regardless of whether anyone even knows they're there. The Sphinx doesn't need admiration. The gargoyle doesn't need thanks. The angel doesn't need your acknowledgement. They simply serve, simply protect, simply are. And all guardians create peace through their presence. Just by being there, by maintaining their vigil, by fulfilling their purpose, guardians create conditions where others can rest, can be vulnerable, can let down their defenses, and simply exist without constant vigilance. This is perhaps the greatest gift guardians offer. Not the dramatic interventions, not the moments of saving someone from immediate danger, but the constant, quiet, largely invisible work of maintaining boundaries, of keeping watch, of ensuring that protected spaces remain protected so that those within those spaces can live and rest and be without fear. Tonight, you're held in the collective protection of all guardians, the ancient ones and the recently created ones, the famous ones known throughout history and the obscure ones standing watch over forgotten temples and unknown thresholds, the physical guardians made of stone and the spiritual guardians made of light. All of them, in their various ways, contribute to the great work of protection that makes life possible, that creates the conditions where beings can be vulnerable, can rest, can trust that they're safe. You benefit from this work, whether you know it or not, whether you believe in guardians or not, whether you've ever consciously thought about protection or taken it for granted. The guardians maintain their vigil regardless. They don't require your belief or acknowledgement to continue their work. But tonight, acknowledging them, recognizing them, honoring their service, this creates a connection. This allows you to consciously receive the protection they offer. This opens you to the peace that guardians have maintained since the beginning of human civilization. The guardians are not your servants. They're not obligated to you personally, but they are committed to protection itself, to the maintenance of boundaries, to the preservation of sacred spaces and sacred beings. And you tonight are a sacred being. You matter. Your rest matters. Your peace matters. And so the guardians extend their protection to include you, not because you've earned it, but because you exist, because you're part of what they protect, because maintaining your safety and peace is part of their larger purpose of protecting life, consciousness, the sacred dimensions of existence itself. The guardians ask nothing from you. They don't need your worship or your sacrifice or your acknowledgement. They simply fulfill their purpose and invite you to rest in the safety they create, to trust in the boundaries they maintain, to surrender your vigilance to them so that you can finally, completely, utterly rest. All the guardians we've explored tonight, they all stand watch now as you move toward sleep. The Sphinx with its eternal gaze, the stone lions at your threshold, the gargoyles on your walls, the Torii Gate marking your transition, the cherubim ensuring you only access what you're ready for, the dragons protecting your treasures, the golem formed from your concerns, and your personal guardian angel, present always, loving unconditionally. They're all here, all present, all committed to your protection, not just for tonight, but for as long as you need them, which is your whole life, every moment of your existence, from birth to death, and perhaps beyond. You are guarded. You have always been guarded. You will always be guarded. The vigilance that protects you never falters, never fails, never turns away. And in this protection, in this eternal vigilant presence of forces committed to maintaining your safety, you can finally, completely, absolutely let go. You don't need to protect yourself tonight. The guardians do that for you. You don't need to remain alert. The guardians maintain the watch. You don't need to worry about threats or dangers or intrusions. The guardians have stood against such things for millennia, and they stand against them tonight on your behalf. Sleep now, deeply and peacefully, in the most profound rest you've ever known. Let the ancient guardians hold you in their patient watch. Let their millennia of vigilance become your peace. Let their eternal commitment to protection grant you the gift of complete surrender, of total trust, of absolute rest. The guardians have maintained their vigil since the beginning. Tonight, they watch over you. Tomorrow night, they'll watch over you again. And every night after that, for all your nights, for all your life, the guardians remain present, remain committed, remain dedicated to ensuring that you are safe, that you are protected, that you can rest in peace. Thank the guardians in your heart. Honor their service with your willingness to receive their protection. Trust them enough to finally, truly, completely let go. And as you let go, as you sink into the deepest sleep, know that you are held. You are watched over. You are guarded by forces ancient and eternal, powerful and gentle, fierce and loving. The guardians bless your rest. The guardians protect your sleep. The guardians will remain vigilant while you dream, ensuring that nothing disturbs your peace, that nothing breaks your rest, that you wake in the morning refreshed, renewed, restored, ready for another day, knowing that when night comes again, the guardians will be there, as they have always been, as they will always be. Sleep now, peaceful and protected. The ancient guardians watch over you, and in their watch you are safe. You are held. You are and have always been perfectly, completely, eternally guarded. Good night.